Hey everyone, Greg V here today. And 2024, this year, marks the 20th anniversary of my solo record, Tailgate Troubadour, that came out in 2004. I still get questions about it, why I made it, what's the backstory around it. And I thought I'd make a video celebrating the anniversary of it, which I can't even believe it's been 20 years. Incredible. And give you guys a little bit more detail into the process and what happened with the record and so forth. So I guess it should start with, I never intended to be a solo artist. I always wanted to be somebody's Mike Campbell. I always wanted to find myself a Tom Petty, somebody I could play with for 30 years, make a career of it. And along the way of my career as a musician, I never found that one artist that I stayed with forever and ever. I would end up playing with different artists, jumping from a tour to another tour and to another tour, and bands in between and things like that, but nothing that had any real longevity. Writing music has always been something very important to me. I've always composed. I've always been very visual in my mind, and that's where I kind of compose from. And so my career, as I mentioned, playing with different artists, kind of took me in all sorts of places that I didn't expect and had a blast with it. But what happens is, whenever I would meet somebody, say in a club or a bar or whatever, and somebody would say, hey, Greg plays guitar. If you need a guitar player, you might want to, check him out. And they would always ask, who have you played with? And that's where it gets a little confusing. So I would say, well, I toured with Ronnie Montrose, great guitar player, legendary guitar player from the 70s. And they go, oh, ... They put the box around you. Oh, you must be a classic rock 70s kind of guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I am that. It's just one facet to my playing. Who else have you played with? Oh, Buddy Miles, ... Oh, you must be a 60s psychedelic Jimi Hendrixy kind of guy. Yeah, no, not really. But that's an influence in my playing, of course, as well. Who else? Oh, Colin Hay from Men at Work, ... Oh, you must be a Vegemite sandwich, new wave, early MTV, keyboard scarf wearing kind of guy. And I'm like, no, I'm not that exactly. And then, progressively on, oh, you play with ... Double Trouble. Oh, you must be a Texas gunslinger like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And yeah, no, I'm not that. I have elements of all of those genres and styles of music in my playing. So instead of having to explain to artists who I played with, I thought I could just give them an audio CD and say, well, this is my solo record. Check it out. If you dig it, maybe you'd like to have me play on your project. So that's what I did. And some of you that have heard Tailgate Troubadour, it's not a Guitars Gone Wild record. It's not a shred record. It's nothing about that. It's a textural, cinematic record that's really about the old adage, serving the song, playing for the song. And because if I'm going to give my record to an artist, they don't want to hear me blazing across, all these tracks. They don't want to hear that. They won't hire you for that. They want to hear, hey, there's some cool sounds here. There's some cool, approaches on the instrument that maybe they think, would enhance their music. So that was the angle of making Tailgate Troubadour. And I didn't expect to sell any. I used to joke that maybe my mom would buy like 10 copies and give it out to her friends or something like that. And the rest would just languish in the garage in boxes or something like that. And unbeknownst to me, the record resonated with people. I was fortunate to get some interviews in like Vintage Guitar magazine, did a great interview talking about the record and reviewing it, Premier Guitar as well. And that kind of got the word out on the internet where people started finding out about the record and buying it, which was incredible. I had no expectation or anticipation that any of that would happen. So with the internet, you never really know where a record's going to land. And I was able to get some copies to session musicians Tom Bukovac, Jerry McPherson, and Kenny Greenberg in Nashville. And they were incredibly supportive. And I had mentioned I was wanting to move to Nashville, and they opened the doors for me. They were amazing. I can't thank them enough. And I got a copy to Doyle Bramhall too, one of my absolute favorite musicians of all time. And he called it masterful, which meant the world to me. Incredible. Then, of course, there's the internet forums themselves, like the Gear Page, a place that spoke very highly of the record, helped spread the word around on it, and was really instrumental and beneficial to getting my music heard. So I can't thank that forum enough. So I like to say that Tailgate Troubadour is a soundtrack without a movie. And what I mean by that is it's 12 short stories instrumental, of course, and my instruments are the actors of those individual stories. I would have lap steel, I might have baritone, I might have dobro, I might have a mando guitar, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, my Tele, my Gretsch, different Fender amps, different blackface amps, and things like that, to mix up the sounds and textures, not only to keep it interesting for me, but that's how I hear music. I like to hear a variety of different things coming out of the speakers, and it really keeps my interest in the long run. And I wanted the listener, while listening to the songs, kind of to get lost within the notes and feel like they were just kind of wandering amongst the music. As I mentioned, it's not a record to beat you over the head with chops or anything like that, but it is meant to be something more cinematic and a little bit more inward when you listen to it. So I also find it interesting whenever I hear artists talk about, their cost to make a record and what's involved in the process and all that. So for Tailgate Troubadour, it cost me $5,000 to make, and that's everything. I had bought a recorder in a Kai machine, DPS 24, I think it was called, DSP 24, I can't remember, to record the guitars on. I had done bass and drums at Kevin McCormick, the bassist who plays on the record, at his studio with Jim Christie on drums. And then I had Mark Goldenberg, my good friend, mix the record. And then I have Gavin Lurson, a Grammy award-winning mastering guy, master the record. And all in, it was $5,000. My wife took the photos on the record. I did the artwork and everything myself. So it was very much a grassroots, effort. And I tried to keep the cost down on it. Never did I expect people to care. And over the course of the next couple years after the record was released, I probably made about $20,000 total in that record now at that time. I don't know what it is now, because with streaming and a few little, nuts and berries coming in from that, not much, but some of that money comes in. So I might be pushing, I don't know, the low 20s, 25,000 or something like that from making the record. And as I've mentioned at the beginning, I never expected anybody to care. I never thought that I would recoup any money. And I'm floored by that. And part of the reason I wanted to do the remastering and a little anniversary topic about this was just to share with you guys the remastered version, because I feel like it could have a little bit of sprucing up on it, I don't know, my ears have changed, maybe my taste have changed for the mastering now, and wanted to let you guys have that. So it's going to be a download, and I'm going to have a link in the description below, and you can check it out and go get it if you like it. And I hope you do. Now, one of the most common questions I get is, will I do a second, third, fourth record? And I've always threatened to do 2, 3, 4, 5 more records. Songs are never the issue. I write constantly. I've always got ideas musically that I can shape and put into fully fledged, fully formed songs. But the issue comes now is the ability to recoup the cost that it takes to make a record. Records can get expensive. It's not going to cost $5,000 anymore for me to make my record, because I want to pay musicians what they should get paid to play on a record. And it's very difficult for me at this point in my life and my career to do more records, and with streaming paying so little. And this is not a complaint about streaming. I'm just speaking from my own perspective. I may never ever be able to recoup the cost of making a record again. And I love to play music. I love to write music, and I do like to share my music. And so going forward, that's what I'm going to continue to do. It just may not be within a context of an actual album. Even though I grew up with albums, I grew up with concept albums, I grew up with, a cohesive batch of songs are meant to go together to kind of tell a larger story of the artist at that point in their life. And when you release individual songs, individual singles, that's a really efficient way to do it, but it kind of loses that connective tissue that an artist or a creative person may like to have within the theme of their music. So I'm not sure exactly which way I'll go, but I'm hopeful I'll do more. And aside from that, I want to give, again, a heartfelt thank you to every one of you guys and girls that supported my music all this time. And again, please go check out the remastered version, and I hope you dig it, and I'll talk with you all later. Thanks. Bye.